Greetings and welcome to Start a Conversation. My name is Dr. Shani Byard with Message Media Education. We're a professional development training company that implements a framework called Afro Media Literacy. Today we're talking about racism. And I'd like to introduce my guests. Let's just jump right in. I want us to talk about what myths, what stereotypes are generated through institutionalized racism, carried out through media, and imposed on us, and how we navigate that. Have you experienced being stereotyped in some way? Because stereotypes can be perceived as a very light thing, right? Yeah. But it has an impact. It can lead to racial profiling. It can lead to destruction, crime, violence, self-destruction as well, when we're talking about how stereotypes are internalized. So have you been impacted by stereotypes in any way, and how have you navigated that?
It's interesting because, like I said, I'm biracial, and I feel I relate to both sides of my heritage. But because of where I grew up, like my mother, for example, wanted to throw me a quinceañera, which she did, and all of her sisters, and it's a custom in a lot of Latin traditions. When you turn 15, you get this huge party, almost like a wedding, where people spend a lot of money. And because I was in a small Texas town, I didn't want it. I was desperately, please don't make me. I don't want people to think that I'm, like other people that they talk about. They use the word wetback. They made jokes. In my school, they looked down on anyone Latino, and they said they were, they considered them all Mexican, even though they were diverse. And not that, I didn't realize I was acting out of, I didn't feel ashamed of my mother and my heritage, but I didn't want to be made fun of. And I didn't want to be considered the same because I'd been trying to fit in so much. And I feel really guilty about that as an older woman, and definitely will teach my kids to fit in differently. But I've been fighting to find my heritage and be a voice to help others to try to find theirs and feel proud of it.
I didn't know anything about American culture really till about late junior high school, because of my parents that grew up in Belize. We didn't have race. We didn't have a color boundary. There's individuals that are drastically light, individuals that are drastically dark from our country, and we were all one. I really experienced it when we moved to a suburb. We left Los Angeles, moved to a suburb about 30 miles east of here, and plus or minus third or fourth grade is when we were looked at differently as color, and I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Fortunately, you do have to come to grips with it and know where that is in your lifetime and how you can navigate through those awkward moments, and having the foundation of my mother and father to share with us how it would grow, because they did go to school here for a short period of time in high school, and knowing how to navigate it and how to just accept it and use it, that it's okay to be different. It's okay to not be of the norm.
I think for me, it was a constant reminder. I was made aware of breaking certain stereotypes at a very young age, because my father made a great attempt to do that by trying to break certain molds of the emasculated Asian male, things of that nature. So he was a 7th grade black belt in judo. So he got into, yes, it was, so it was misdirected and misguided, but because of the fact that he could not verbalize it because his English was so bad, he got into a lot of physical altercations, and it was due to the fact that in his mind, he had to make it a point to prove to other people that Asian men were strong and capable, and completely unlike what the media portrayal of Asian males to this day was. So in my life, especially just me doing music, and having to, at a young age, go to record labels and play them my demo, and then they see me. So there was a lot of hide your face, and when people would see me, there's a lot of we love your voice, but it does not sound the way that you look, whatever that is supposed to mean, you know? So there was a lot of that and a lot of frustration and just me kind of, because I didn't fit in, I was not a math person, which is another huge stereotype that we're good at math and science, and a lot of us are, but I'm not one of them. So like, you know, so I just felt like there was a certain displacement of not feeling this or that, you know? And so as I got older, I had to redefine what that was, being a Korean American woman that does this type of music, you know, and be okay with that and know that I am presenting myself in the most authentic way possible, and how people take that is on them.
I like what you said about that, like fitting in. I don't think we have to.
Yes,
Yeah.
You
but
don't
there's
really
this
have
immense
to.
pressure because this country, I feel, you know, compartmentalizes and, you know, does this thing of white here and everybody else down here. And there's this constant, you know, and the system is built this way. So, you know, it's not an easy process, but I think the
Totally
more we kind
understand.
of stand in
Yep.
our light and show ourselves, I think it's a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a key word, a system, because it becomes unconscious.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
it just is.
Right.
You know, it's something that is, you know, and
Right.
like you couldn't really explain it when you were in 15,
Yeah.
you know, it just felt you just couldn't do it. Another way that we internalize racism in our communities has been to judge each other based on skin tone
Yeah.
as well. Can anybody speak to that sort of experience?
Yes, I think the westernization is throughout the world. It's a very global thing. And I know in Asia, for instance, if you are of darker skin, you are considered kind of the lower poor class, because those are the people out in the fields working, and the upper class are, you know, are lighter. So they sell a lot of skin bleaching products
Right.
to keep everything, you know, so.
Billion-dollar
Yes.
industry globally.
It's just, when I first saw that in Asia, when I went back to Korea, I thought that was mind-blowing. I just couldn't believe, you know, how pervasive westernization and this push for it was.
And I think adding to that on the media side, if we just think of drastic light and dark, you know, naturally media and television, it's more welcoming to be in the light than it is to be in the dark.
is.
You know, and what I do professionally of color and what color actually does to our minds. And I believe that those things were just exploited and really just taken
Right.
advantage of and poked at, if you will, to make it be accepted.
Can we talk about who we are? I mean, we're going back to you. All of you mentioned how you had that kind of awakening, right? And just decided, you know, I am going to be who I am. Who are you as a Korean American? Who are you as an African American? How can we speak back to those stereotypes today?
Whew.
Man,
That's a good question.
I think just by me doing what I, you know, I I still take the kind of, so growing up and being very aware that I was in the minority, because people would ask me what nationality, and I would tell them I'm Korean, and they would be like, what is that? They didn't, at that time, they didn't even know that it existed. They didn't know where to find it on a map. So I became very hyper aware of how many Korean kids were at the school. And this kind of, and in the history books, like, you know, it's just mostly about European history. And the one like chapter or the one like thing of the template that the Black Civil Rights Movement kind of laid down in this country is what I clung to for me, and how to follow certain things and how to fight certain things and who I am in this world. And so I kind of,
Thank you for acknowledging it's like a
yes, it's
paragraph.
just a, yeah, it's like
I
a,
said the same thing.
yeah, it's a footnote, and it's always like MLK and a little bit about Frederick Douglass,
Right.
and yeah, maybe Malcolm X. Who knows? It's a little controversial,
It
so who
is.
knows? Yeah,
It's
so
too controversial.
yeah, yes, exactly. So
Teachers get fired over that.
yeah, it's just unbelievable, and it's just information. That's all it is. You know. At the end of the day, I kind of related to that, and so I kind of took a militant, I want to say, almost viewpoint as to who I am, and I know that's kind of going overboard to compensate for the fact that, you know, I just felt so alone and defenseless. You know, I felt so much like a minority. You know, but when I do my music, I express myself, and I've heard a lot of things for the entirety of my music career that it sounds very quote unquote black, whatever that means. And so I have to, and I've had to do a lot of explaining of myself to my people and to also black people, to people at large. Where do you get the sound? Is it authentic or whatever it is? I don't feel the need to really explain myself anymore. I am what I am. If people dig it, cool. If they don't, that's fine too, And so I don't take it personally because I'm secure in who I am, and I feel like that gives me the wings to kind of be free.
They have devices that they carry around that have the knowledge and the power to connect them to the entire world, but they use it to talk about people and look at cat videos.
One, it takes time. No matter how fast we want it to change, how much important we want to change, some things just take time.
There is a sense of you having to be twice as good, you know what I mean, than the next person who is, but it is what it is.
My first step in realizing really what my role is, and if I don't check myself, that I could continue the same thing.
Start a conversation.
Start a conversation.
Start a conversation.